Okay, welcome to our webinar tonight. It's all about post-secondary entrance for unschoolers. So if you have a child that's going off to college, to university, art and tech schools, or maybe you're just starting on this journey and you have a little 5-year-old and you're worried about what's ahead, I hope to cover quite a few things and assure you that absolutely they'll have everything they need to get in and stay in. That's the other part. So this is, if you haven't heard of Unschooling Canada Association, we do webinars to hopefully support you in your journey and help you learn more. And come join us at unschoolingcanada.ca. And this is me. I'm Judy Arnell, and I'm a certified child and brain development specialist in my work life. And I love to transition over to education because that's one of my passions too, is how kids develop, but also how their brains develop. I've written quite a few books. I'm all about non-punitive parenting. So my books are on handling everyday challenges, handling stress and anger, and just lots of tips. I got lots of tips over my years of facilitating groups with parents. Okay, and then my latest book is Unschooling to University. It's when my kids, my unschoolers, went off to university and their friends went off to university. I was like, whoa, nobody knows about this. So I surveyed all their friends and we came up with lots of information. So tonight's presentation is kind of from chapter 20 and 21 of the book on entering post-secondary. Okay, so I have 5 kids. So far, 4 of them have been accepted to universities. 3 are in STEM programs. I have 3 graduates so far, and they applied to 12 Canadian universities, and all of them were in the Maclean School rankings, if you're familiar with that. So and competitive programs. And it's very interesting, the situation right now. Okay, so, I have a blog too. Come visit me, unschoolingtouniversity.com. Okay, so what I often find with parents is when they have younger children, they don't realize how capable their children are going to grow into. And I like to show this graph of the development of the prefrontal cortex. This is all the critical thinking, analyzing skills. And you can see here from 0 to 3, there's not a lot of critical thinking going on for those toddlers. But ages 3 to 6 takes the first big leap in critical thinking. And is developing. And why they don't start mandatory school yet is because at age, look how much there's a variation between ages 3, 4, 5. So 6 is kind of where it starts plateauing, and that's when kids generally go off to school. And then the second plateau is around age 13. And you can see this big jump here around 17. 17 seems to be the magic number that kids start looking around, looking at their friends. Their friends are going off to university, other friends are going off to college, and they're like, oh, what am I going to do with my life? What do I want to do? And many do have an idea of what they want to do. Maybe they want to start a business, they want to open up an art studio, which is great. And many think, okay, here's what I want to do. I want to be a veterinarian. And then you have a talk and say, okay, here's what you need to do to go into veterinary school. And by that age, see, their brains have lots of focus, lots of self-control. They're able to jump through the hoops of what they need to do to go to veterinary school. And they're more motivated and more willing to learn that biology course so that they can get in, or learn about that physics course. So like I said, around age 17 is when they start getting a little more focused on what they want to do, and they tend to do what it takes to get their credentials to get into post-secondary. So for example, let's say you have a son who is playing, I don't know, what's a video game? Fortnite in your basement right now. And he's 17 and he comes up and he says, I want to be a doctor. And you go, okay. This kid hasn't done anything that looks like academia for 17 years. How's he going to be a doctor? So what he needs in Canada is he needs a science degree first before medical school. So that's a 4-year science degree. What does he need to get into a science program at a university? He probably needs a grade 12 English course. He needs a grade 12 social studies course, a grade 12 chemistry course, a grade 12 biology course, often a grade 12 math course. Doesn't need math 31 though, calculus, not for medical. So what do? They can read the exam syllabus. So they can prepare. Some of them take courses in those areas. Some take a grade 12 course. Some take a grade 11, 12 course. But they can do it. It takes about 2 years prep, and they would have all the qualifications for entering a science program at a university. That's 8 courses over 2 years. Easy peasy. And if they're motivated, they're going to get really good marks and get in. So I don't want you to worry that you have to plan when your child is 5 years old. Planning can start when they're 17 or later. I mean, there's all kinds of adults that go back to school, right? And they're often credited for their life experience and learning outside a school system. So unschooling is knowledge acquired on a need-to-know time frame as determined by the learner. And if your child at 17 decides, that's what I want to do, and I'm going to do it. And that's your job, is to help them figure out what they need to do that. Okay, so I found if you have a teenager, textbooks are really good. And it doesn't really matter which textbooks. Biology, chemistry, mathematics is the same worldwide over. I mean, biology is biology, however it's presented in a textbook. So find out what your local school system is using for those textbooks and subjects. Get your child to study them, work out some problems. If they're a self-studier, if they're not, maybe they take the course. These keys are available across Canada and in libraries, often for free, and they're very helpful. Or these snap books too. They're very much provincial based, so they can help kids study too and take these exams. So in Alberta, we have what we call diploma exams. And for certain subjects, that's what my kids did. They studied the study guide, they wrote the exam, they got the marks and credits, and they present that. So your child doesn't need a high school diploma to go on to post-secondary. What they need are certain subjects in their area. Okay, so let's look at credentials, how to get in. That's what we're going to look in. How does they get in? The other thing they can do is, if your province doesn't have exams for the end of grade 12, like Alberta does, they can write the SATs and present those as credentials for those subjects. So normally, most post-secondaries, and it depends, if they're going to art college, they won't need all 5 courses, but if they're going to doctor, they are going to need those 5 courses. So generally that's what they need. And here it is across Canada, the course equivalents. So for example, let's look at biology. In Alberta, Northwest Territories, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, these are the course codes. Okay, so it's pretty well probably the same content, it tends to be. Okay, And don't let the grades, the competitive grade, cutoff grades, worry you. Each institution has different cutoff grades for things, but if you look at this, they do accept children with grades under 70, 70 to 75, 75 to 80, and it shows you kind of the percentages of what institution accepts at what grade. For ultra competitive things such as engineering, nursing, you're going to find the competitive grade average higher. So if your child really wants to go into those areas, they're going to have to really, really study. Okay, so let's look at 14 ways to get in. Number one is parent-issued transcript. So a lot of homeschoolers and unschoolers make their own transcript. And they name their courses. So you would have biology 10. And then they list what was learned. A lot of incoming universities want to know what the scope and sequence was of the course they studied. So you just copy it from the textbook and list what they learned and any exams they take that qualifies those marks. They may ask for an independent evaluation, and at that point you might want to have your children do the SATs because that's a good way to prove those qualifications. Number two is a government-issued transcript for self-taught courses. Now we actually do have this benefit in Alberta, so our children can challenge the diploma exam, go in there, write a 2-hour exam in biology, and they get the marks, they get credits, and off they go they can present that to any university in North America. So like I said, they could write just challenge exams. So write the SATs, ACT exams, which are available pretty well worldwide, and they're universally accepted. They're very well respected. Number four is do a course challenge. So take any high school course and challenge it. So whatever the challenge procedure would be that the government is asking for, either state or provincial, then children could go through those procedures. Number five is maybe just, rather than just do all high school courses, just do the grade 12 course and the grade 12 exams. In Alberta, you have to wait till you're 20 or 19 to do that. And it's so silly, but I don't, teachers' unions are very powerful. So we can't let those 16-year-olds prove that they know grade 12 course material. Next is complete all high school core courses only, but none of the high school filler courses. So forget phys ed, forget career and life management, just get your biology, your English, your math, those core courses you need for post-secondary entrance. And that's the fastest way to do that. Or there's the equivalency diploma. It tends to be a lot of work and it can be stigmatized. And if you're going to put that much work into it, I suggest just get your 5 courses, absolute grade 12 courses. You can do adult high school upgrading. So there's a lot of schools that are doing that. So it's when children register for maybe night school to get their biology, and they tend to be, because they're geared to adults, they tend to do a lot cooler experiments that kids in a high school would not be able to do due to liability. And a lot of them do condensed courses because they realize people are working, want to start a new career. They really, really want to help your children get the courses they need to go on. That's their mandate, is to make it as simple and easiest as possible, and especially for adults or children that are working during the day. Next, this is the most common way unschoolers get into colleges, universities without high school. They go apply for a college They do a year of courses, get some options covered, get good marks, and then you can transfer as a transfer student to any institution into a degree program, or you could stay in the community college and finish those programs too. So it's very, very common. That's what unschoolers do. Now, some universities have entrance exams that you could challenge, but some don't, so don't rely on that one. University and colleges open studies programs. So it's an offer, a buffet of courses, and children can try the courses, they get marks, they get a transcript, but the courses don't lead to a degree. They don't get a qualification at the end of taking 40 courses as they would in a degree program. So it's really good, it's low commitment, it's great for trying out programs. And usually the courses taken, if they go to another university for, say, science degree, a lot of their courses can transfer as fill in for the options or core courses. I would suggest keeping any course your child takes at post-secondary level, keep the course outline. Print it out or save it on your computer, because when universities are accepting other universities' courses in a student's program, they want to see what that student did in the course. And some of them grant full credit, some will grant half credit, saying that only half the content would match our course at our institution. So you really have to be ready to prove what your child has learned. Number 12 is university in-house upgrading. So going to universities, they all offer first-year high school courses. They're not called high school courses. So in high school, it might be biology 30. At a university level, it's biology 100. So it's high school level, but in the university. And it's a great way for kids to feel they're part of the college experience, but are upgrading for moving on. It adds an extra year to their program, but it would add that anyways if they took it at an adult upgrading school. In some provinces, though, because they took the high school courses at the university, they could not qualify for high school scholarships. So just be aware of that. That's important if they're going for high school scholarship funding. And then there's always mature student. This is way a lot of unschoolers also get into post-secondaries. So you do tend to have to wait. Your child has to be over 21. And oftentimes they just need English, the academic English, to get in there. And there's a certain number of seats set aside for a mature student, but not a whole lot. So don't rely on that. And there's always attend a regular high school. That is an option. A lot of unschoolers want to try high school. They want to be with kids on a daily basis. A lot of them try it, and like my kids, and come home and think, okay, I'm going to do this self-taught because the class just takes too much time. So that is a possibility too. Okay, so most common ways unschoolers, I've outlined 14 ways, but most common are attending community colleges and then transferring, applying as a mature student, getting just the grade 12 core courses, or getting the core courses throughout grade 10, 11, 12. Math is a little hard to just go into grade 12 and take a math course. Sometimes they need grade 10, 11, and 12 to do that too. But it depends. If you have a math whiz, they can do it, right? It's their interest. Okay, common concerns. A lot of people say, oh, how do you teach a work ethic? You know, kids need a work ethic to stay into university after they get in. So we always say in unschooling, children adapt when the need is there. You don't have to teach a work ethic from day one that they will acquire when they need it, okay? So And some kids are naturally more organized than others. Their executive function just develops faster, and they're going to adapt a bit better. Perseverance comes from passion. So if they're committed to do something, the intrinsic motivation will get them there, okay? And that prefrontal cortex development in the teen years really spurs them on to do what they want to do. They're very motivated. So work ethic is a life skill that needs modeling and encouragement. It doesn't need coercion, and you don't need to start teaching it when they're 5 years old. Okay, will there be gaps in their learning? Yes, of course. But if your kids go to school, there will be gaps too, right? And for a lot of things, we don't need to fill in the gaps. Not every adult needs to know how to factor a polynomial. If they're going into a math career, maybe they do need to know that. But for the most part, an engineer does not need to know how to deconstruct Shakespeare. So gaps are okay. Okay, what I wish I'd known, tips for success. Oh gosh, yes. So I had 4 kids already apply. Applications, they start early. So start as early as October in the previous year. So for example, this fall, if you have children that want to go to post-secondary this fall, it's too late. They can actually start applying in October for next fall. The deadlines are February or March 1st, depending on the institution. So be very aware of deadlines, because one day late is not going to cut it. I would suggest applying to 3 to 5 schools of their choice, because then they're not stuck if they're left out of their preferred schools. Pay your fees on time, because you can. Your child can be whoosh, just delete it. And you should hear acceptance letters by May or June of after the February or March deadline. It takes that long because there's a cutoff average. So let's say for a competitive program like engineering, the cutoff average depends on the pool of applicants for that year. So if they get 350 applicants for 150 seats in first year engineering, and those applicants have a competitive average of 92%, that's going to be their cutoff. So anyone under 92% in those core courses are not going to get in. Now, if the average is lowered, let's say one year they only have 250 applicants and they have a competitive average of 87, that's the competitive average for that year. So it very much depends on who's applying and what quality of applicants are applying for those competitive programs. But there's many, many other programs that are as great too, if your child wants to take those too. So yes, so if you get a nice thick envelope in the mail, you know that's good news. If you get a thin little envelope that doesn't weigh much, it's not good news. So be ready before applying, and that's key. Kids should know what they want to go into, because it's harder to change faculties, programs, majors after a dismal first year. If their heart's not in it, they're not doing, everybody's grades drop the first year, but if they don't want to be there, they are going to party, they're not going to do well. That is not good, because then it's harder to transfer into a degree program, and it's harder to stay in the following year too. Marks in universities are cumulative, unlike high school. So anywhere a child's applying to, it's based on the last 10 courses, whether they're high school courses or university courses. So let's say they've done a half a year of university and dropped out at Christmas because they got really bad marks. And then 2 years later, they pull up their socks, they say, I'm going to try this again. That incoming university is going to want to see that half year of dismal marks of the other university and also the high school transcript with the core grade 12 course marks on it. So, so my advice is just make sure your children are ready. They really want to do that before they apply because they can really shoot themselves in the foot. A lot of provinces now have a central place where you upload all the courses, either on your parent or your government transcript, and the marks. You put the marks in, and then the post-secondaries pull the transcript from that central place that is applied to. And it saves the student applying to each institution separately. It's kind of a good database that way. Okay, this is interesting. Homeschoolers who are self-directed are acknowledged. This was through the University of Calgary. They ask, did you follow a homeschooling curriculum? And that doesn't include distance ed or correspondence study or independent study. Look at that. Yes. Did you expect to complete the IB program or advanced placement? And it's interesting because they're asking these questions. They truly value self-directed learners. Yay. Now, if your child doesn't get into close to home schools, they may be out of province, maybe out of country. Residents, apply as soon as your acceptance letter comes. And again, maybe you want to pre-apply too, because those spaces fill up fast, at least by June. If you can, try and get a single bedroom with a door on it. That will enhance studies, and it allows your student to control how much time they want to spend socializing. I would suggest get the smallest food plan you can, because a lot of times parents overbuy the food plan that the kids are not going to use. They eat off campus, or they, eat at places where their friends are eating, but the food plan is not offered there. And don't purchase supplies until you actually move in and see what they need, what their roommate can provide. And be sure to keep up health. The first year is very difficult in terms of mental health, anxiety, homesickness. And for most post-secondaries now, they do parent orientations as well as student orientations. Go to those. They're very valuable, very good for both. Scholarships. There's lots out there. They're a bit of work to apply for, but go for them. Even if they're only doing grade 12 courses, apply for scholarships. They could get entrance scholarships too. There's loans and grants available. For ages 18 to 22, they need parent info. For the Canada Student Aid and Provincial Student Aid, those 4 years, they assume that children are living with parents. So they want parent financial info. After age 22, even if your child's still living at home, they don't care. They don't need to know. There's grants for low income, and also lots of good grants for kids with special needs. And those grants go right to the kids. They don't go to the institution and get distributed somewhere else. And you can apply pretty well anytime during the year. Applications are now and continue up until about a month before they finish the year, I think. Okay. First year tips, I would suggest help your child to get to know academic advising, to determine what courses they need. Make sure they know the drop dates. Like I said, if they get a failure on their record, that pulls down their whole GPA. Believe me, we've had that. You do not want that to happen. So make sure they know the drop dates without penalty. If you want to help them for the first year, and I did with all my kids, because You know, you go from unschooling where they don't do any of administration work, and then they're off to post-secondary where they have to do all the administration work because due to privacy, they don't talk to parents. One year I paid the wrong university because I had 3 going at the same time and I got confused. And they would not talk to me at all about the overpayment. They had to talk to my child and they paid him, not me, even though I wrote the original check. So, so what I would suggest is get the third-party authorization forms and ask your child if you can sign it. So that way you can help them navigate that administration world of financing, loans, registrations, all those things that they're gonna need some support with that first year. Second year, then let them loose. But first year, it's nice to provide that support. This is a typical dorm room. Usually it has 2 beds, 2 desks, and 2 closed closets. And then somebody brings a fridge in. And help your child set up an organization system. Although, you know what, they may have those on their own already. So, yeah. If you have a child with special needs, get documentation of special needs for grade 12. Usually universities want to see it within 3 years of current time. Most colleges, universities, tech schools, art schools have accessibilities offices. And that's kind of like if your child with special needs, that's their homeroom. That's their support system. They help your child fill out forms. They help them with tutoring, with learning strategies. They get them connected with supports on campus. It's very, very, very handy to have. Okay, what's post-secondary really like? I thought it was different, but in some classes they still take attendance. I cannot believe that. They didn't take that when I went. It's a lot different from high school. High school has like 46 assessed items in a course, and post-secondary is like maybe, 3 or 4 items, maybe 2 exams and a major paper, things like that. It's where most of the weighting is, except for science and STEM classes where they have labs. And the exams can be worth anywhere from 50 to 90%. My one son had a math class where if you failed the final exam, you failed the course. And he passed the course, but half the class failed the final exam and didn't get credit for the course. So why do they put so much weighting on exams? They want to stem cheating. That's pretty well it. Get your kids used to handwriting because a lot of courses will not allow computers in the classes or for exams, even essay writing. They have to handwrite. And that was a real problem for my kids because they were on computers all their lives. We didn't teach them cursive, but they learned cursive. In about 3 months, they recognized the need, they practiced, and they had a pretty good, good cursive by then. Okay, so in conclusion, there's no shortcuts. Really, students must have the competencies to do well, and they will, absolutely will. If they're ready to go and they want to go, they can go. And you want to set them up for success, that they do have the ability to succeed in post-secondary. Be sure they know the content and can apply the content. Okay, at this point, I'm opening it up for questions. Does anybody have any questions you'd like to ask? Post-secondaries are really good at putting those requirements on their websites now. So they don't want you calling. They don't like to talk. It's all there in black and white. Oh, and I would say they're pretty well the same too. So for example, a science program, probably he's going to need like biology, maybe chemistry or physics, probably 2 sciences to present. So compare, maybe check what UBC is requiring and maybe what Waterloo is requiring for the same science program, but pretty well it's the same. Nursing is, well, no, nursing's a little different. Nursing in the University of Calgary didn't require the science math, but Mount Royal University did require the science math. And a lot of them use it as a sorting tool to see, to narrow the pool of who's applying. So definitely check them out and compare. Okay, I think we're pretty well done questions. So thank you for coming tonight. I hope this was helpful. And feel free, keep in touch. I have a blog on unschooling. I have a blog on parenting. We have an Unschooling STEM Facebook group. So come join us there. Absolutely. Okay, question. Does the mature student application age differ from one province to the other? Actually, it differs per institution. So check to see. Generally, it's age 21, but it can be different too. It could be, 25. So definitely check what the major institutions in your province are looking for. Yeah. Okay. All right, everybody. Bye-bye. Have a good evening. We'll see you next month. Okay, take care.